Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about a very exciting new feature that we've introduced in SecurityReview.ai, which is the native diagramming tool. Now, a lot of times we realize that companies don't have documents, or they may not have very good documentation. They may not have very good diagrams that exist already. They may want to start from a single source of truth and build on it as part of a threat model. And that is something that we are now supporting in a very, very comprehensive way with the native diagramming system that we have. So let me show you this with an example rather than just talk about what it can do. So let's get into it. Let's create a new project. Let's call this project Acme Event Management System. I'm just going to give it some information so that the LLM can understand what kind of an application this is. This is a corporate event management system hosted by Acme's SaaS team. This allows companies to set up events like conferences, etc. Companies can set up registration pages and even add payment links to the events. External users can register for the event with or without payment as the event is configured. So I just give it some basic description as to what the system does. And we're going to get started. We don't have any diagrams for this. Let's say we are just starting off on a clean, plain slate. We don't have anything. We don't have diagrams of any sort. Let's get started with creating our diagram within the security review system itself. Now, as soon as you open the diagram, you will get a diagrams.net interface, which you can use to start creating this stuff. So this system is a pretty complex system, and I'm going to show you how this is work. We're going to have our users, and let's just call them users, and we'll call them external users. And we also have corporate users. Now they access a front end hosted on AWS Amplify. So imagine that this entire thing is hosted on AWS Amplify. This is the enterprise admin front end, AWS Amplify, and the corporate users access this over HTTPS. And again, you don't have to give it exactly this information, but you can give it some information that makes its life a little easier. The users access the event page front end hosted on AWS Amplify again. Now this also they access on HTTPS. Aside from this, these folks are using, let's say, Azure Entra to access for single sign-up. So let's draw the system out. And this, remember, I don't have any additional documents. I'm just relying on the diagram to be able to do something like this. This is Azure Entra for SSO, and you can connect both sides if you want. Let's connect both sides. And then we have GraphQL. So we will use a GraphQL endpoint. So let's just use this as an icon for GraphQL, and let's call this GraphQL. Let's move this over here, and we will connect the services that we have, the front-end services, to this. And then we have another API, and we say that this is running on API running on AWS Fargate, and we connect this, and this connects to a Couchbase database. Let's just use database as a, and we are going to also connect it to Amazon S3 for object storage. S3 object storage. And we also have a dashboard. So business intelligence tool. So let's say it's also connected to a business intelligence tool. So let's just call this a business intelligence dashboard. So this is also going to be connected to this component. So we have this diagram that we've created now. And with this diagram, this is all we have, right? So this is version 1 of the diagram. We've created this. Let's actually save it. Now, once you save this, what our AI does is that it processes this entire thing using our AI engine, and it captures an entire map of the entire set of components here. It captures all the different entities. It captures how they're connected to each other. It will also try and capture information about what they're doing. All of that stuff is automatically captured by the system. This takes a few seconds to happen, but once it's done, you are literally off to the races. You don't need to have anything else. You just have this diagram, and you can start running with this diagram and use that to do your review. So you can get started with your review immediately, and whenever this diagram changes, so let's say there's a new component added, and I'll also show you that during this video. When there's a new component added, it will automatically capture the data of the new component, and it's done. So we have our diagram, which is consumed by the system. Now all we have to do is literally start it. So let's say we start a full system threat model, and we can say next. We just have to select the diagram that we've created. We can select which compliance requirements. This has credit cards. Oh, maybe I forgot to add that. Let's add that in the next version. So now I am mapping it to some requirements. Now I start my review. So when I start my review, you will see that it does the review just exactly how we've been doing it in SecurityReview.ai. It starts with the security objectives, then it maps out all the entities which are there in the diagram. Then it also tries to capture the latest data dictionary, which is a list of sensitive information assets that are stored, processed, transmitted by the system. And this way, you'll see that the entire process can repeat. You can continue with threat scenarios and countermeasures. And at the end, all you need is this diagram, and you can even create that diagram within our system. And as always, we have the flexibility of you using other documents. You have other diagrams that you can upload. You can do all of that stuff. At the same time, you can still use a native diagramming system that we've provided, which makes it very easy for you to go from 1 to 100 with very little time spent on actually completing this particular circuit. Now, let's say I've forgotten to add something to this diagram. Let's see that we need to add. Oh, I've forgotten to add the payment gateway interface. So let's add it. So now here, what we can do is we have our payment gateways. So let's say payment gateway. So we have our payment gateway that the application redirects to from the front end. So we have connections from it to here, and we also have a connection that hits our GraphQL system API callback. So now we have this. And let's say you wanted to add a boundary. You wanted to add some trust boundaries and so on. You can add that within the system, right? So you can essentially add a new trust boundary and say, okay, this is where I want to include all these in the boundary, and everything else should be outside of that boundary. So now I can add all these elements, all these entities to the boundary, and everything else is outside of that boundary. So that's how easy it is for you to do a native diagramming on top of our security review platform. So now when you save this, this is now saved as a different version. There's a version 2 of the same diagram, and it also stores the delta changes that have happened since the first diagram for you to be able to easily refer to how the diagram has actually evolved over time. That's really powerful stuff, simply because you might want to say that, okay, how has this actually changed from point A to point B, or time frame A to time frame B? You can actually do that with our system because we have native version management, and the diagrams that you maintain in here have integration with that native diagram management. So you can have the version management and so on automatically built into this very, very easily, which is already there. So it's just processing the latest diagram and making sure that it pulls all the latest components, it pulls the latest boundaries, it's able to identify. So now you see that version 2 is captured as follows. Now if I go back to version 1, it will show me that version 1 was like this, which I've already started a review for. So you'll see that just with a native diagramming system, you're able to get off to the race, right? So now you'll see that based on just that diagram, we've been able to identify security objectives. We've been able to identify certain security objectives around key management, encryption, so on and so forth. So we ran the entities task, and you'll see that it was able to identify all the different entities that we have in the diagram itself, right? So things like API service, the enterprise front-end admin, corporate users, the event page front-end, SSO, external users, business intelligence dashboard, Couchbase, S3 object storage. So everything has been automatically captured. And you'll see that since this is a AI native system, the power of the AI native system is that the security objectives, and of course, once we start running the threat scenarios and the countermeasures, automatically start getting mapped to the components that they are relevant to. So for instance, if I want to see what are the security objectives that are meant for the GraphQL endpoint, I can see that it's very clear that these are some of the things that I have that are relevant to the GraphQL endpoint. And then, of course, once we start running the threat scenarios and countermeasures, those also start to appear here. And of course, they're connected to the different entities externally as well. So you'll see that it's really powerful what native diagramming can do, because native diagramming gives you the ability to manage your components in one single way, in a single source of truth style environment. So many things have been made clear, even with just a single diagram that we. So it's very powerful stuff that you can do with the native diagramming interface that we provide as part of SecurityReview.ai.